First of all, I want to say that if you got through this week and you had a great week, then you are representing half of energetically sensitive and empaths people. Okay, there were some beautiful energies that were coming in last week. We had a summer solstice. I hope you all had a really good experience. But if you have had like really intense dramas going on, family drama maybe, or maybe just things that were taking place within yourself, well, then you are also at the right place here, because I reflect on a certain subject or a certain collective energy that is coming in at a certain time. Then you will often hear me say that from a, say, an emotional point of view, it looks like this. From an energetic standpoint, it looks like this. So there are different ways of perceiving ourselves, others, and the world that we live in. And I'm trying to do justice to all of them, which is stay as neutral as possible and not make anything special. As empaths, though, and this is something that we've illuminated in the past couple of weeks here, we encounter a special set of challenges these days, because it's just not fully accepted yet. So I kind of like to compare our times right now with times when, you know, maybe like 150, 200 years ago, when this whole idea of unseen bacteria is in our air, and they can affect our body. When that was first introduced, that idea was not welcomed, and as you probably all know from your history or science lessons, was actually fought for quite a while. And if you look into the history of humankind, every larger new paradigm of existence was basically fought, shunned, and suppressed. And this is kind of like what most energetically sensitives and empaths are exposed to. So from my personal and some other people's observations, we are we make up only like 15 to 20% of the population, which is probably much larger than you think it is. But in regards to the environment and the sort of mainstream belief, we're still the minority, and that's why a lot of us have this sort of single fighter, lonesome warrior type of life experience, because no matter where we go, we feel misunderstood or not heard. And some of these things came up last week, and I don't want to say that this is all just because of energetic sensitivity. No, there are other things that play into this collective weather condition, and some of those are celestial constellation or astrology, if you will. But the way I look at energies is not solely from an astrological standpoint or an you know, a prediction standpoint. I do forecasts as well, but I look at them from an empirical standpoint, which means I talk to like about 200, 300 energetically sensitive people from all over the world every weekend, and a couple hundred more people that join our public energy sessions here at transCODES, and this is where I get this information from. I want you to understand this, okay? So when I report about specific issues that are coming up in a week, and when I sort of predict that next week we're going to be dealing with this or that, then this is actually based on actual data, on actual sessions that I had, and things, tendencies that I can make out. And not just me, also the fellow energy workers here at transCODES that do the same thing with me. So I just want you to understand this, where this information is coming from, all right? So coming back to last week, which was summer solstice, so that's a celestial, that's an astrological event, if you will. This is the longest day here in the northern hemisphere, the shortest day in the southern hemisphere, and those celestial events bring in unique conditions, all right? So from an energetic standpoint, they bring in the condition of a loosening of the collective grid, as we call it, or some people call it matrix, all right? So on these solstices, we have wonderful opportunities to do collective clearing work, to do karma work. And we talked about this last week a lot, actually the previous 2 weeks. And this summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere, winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, brought in a lot of karmic family stuff. So that many of us went through some really deep, almost like recollection, maybe in your dreams, maybe you had actually family over, but for most people this is more internal. So being faced with things, with wounds or with memories that suddenly reappeared from early childhood or when we grew up. And I want to just briefly make the connection here for you and contextualize this. When we talk about the human collective, we're talking about things that are sort of conditioned into us. And last time I explained how there's different dimensions of these collective groups that we have. You know, we have our family, we have our village, we have the city, we have the nation, we have the ethnic background, the beliefs, and so forth. So there's a lot of different aspects that play into our collective programming. But on solstices, these things loosen up a little bit, and the reason why there is a lot of family stuff coming up, or old memories. This can also include past relationships. I had a lot of aspects with past relationships this week as well, that reappear and that show us that there are unresolved things there. There's unfinished business there, and maybe I have to go there. Maybe this is something that is still affecting my life today somehow. And probably one of the most common question I had last week was the question: if I have karmic ties with a person or a family member, do I actually have to go to this person in 3D, in the physical, in the personal, to resolve those karmic ties? And this is a very valid question, okay? I want to just pick up on this here real quick, how to practically address karmic ties. Some karmic ties that we have cannot be addressed in person, period. You've got to just really accept that. If you have something, a traumatic event with somebody in the past, it often doesn't make any sense to go back and wanting to talk about this, either because it could re-traumatize you, or simply because there's no point. You know that there's not going to be a resolution with this person. So sometimes it is not possible. Sometimes the people that we feel like we want to reconcile with are dead already, or we don't know where they are, so we just technically can't connect them. And sometimes I do recommend to do reconciliation work, karmic reconciliation work in person. So this very much depends on the situation, but the overall energetic viewpoint here is that you can do etheric reconciliation with anybody, and this is something that has to do with understanding how energetic interaction works and how energetic healing work functions, and that is that you can go in sort of a meditative or a relaxed state and visualize the person and approach them in a humble way and make an offering. And an offering is not like a deal or anything like that. An offering is literally something that you can do, like sort of as as you know, as a suggestion, like, here, take all the things that I've learned from you, all the things that you've learned from me, the things that we share, the things that we experience together here. I thank you for this, and please take them back so we can move on. All right, and this is a technique. Of course, it's can be expanded a little bit. So please email me if you have this desire to do etheric or energetic reconciliation with a person, and you'd like to know how to do this. We did a lot of energy sessions this entire week to train a person how to do this karmic reconciliation, but I can give you some markers, some pointers, depending on your situation. So there is a way to energetically reconcile with someone, and in that way what we're doing is we're sort of feeling out what this person's alignment is. But there are some rules to this, and I do want to really stress this out, that you always have to ask for permission first. You always need to ask. Even though you're just visualizing, you're thinking you're doing this with your mind, but you're really not doing this with your mind. You're doing this with your heart and with your entire alignment. And so you need to ask the other person's energy if you have the permission to do this. Sometimes you will not get the permission, and then you have to wait. Maybe it's not the right timing. But those of you who intend to do etheric or karmic reconciliation with someone in person, you can sort of pave the way to, like, say, a personal confrontation through energetic reconciliation. You can feel this out. You can already sort of smooth things out a bit, and you can show your sincere attitude. All of this, of course, only works if you are truly feeling this in your heart, if you know what you are feeling, and if you are willing to let go of any form of negative sentiment or negativity towards this person. All right, if you can't let go of negativity towards a person, it's very difficult to get their energy to cooperate, because they will feel the hostility in your energy. So this in itself is a whole a chapter, you know, like, how do I reconcile with other people? And I've just published an article, Are You in Your True Self or in Your False Self? Quite frankly, a lot of us are not fully able to differentiate, fully able to discern if we are in our truth at a certain, at a given moment. And a lot of times this has to do with our often unconscious, unknown sort of inner conflicts that still dominate us. So read this article if you have the time. It gives you some pointers here. But the family karma that came up last week, why do these things sort of collectively appear this way? It's simple. I've talked about this before. It's a collective correction that we're going through, and this will continue to go. We will continue to go through this on all levels here for the next 2-3 years. Okay, and what does this mean? Correction. All right, it means basically that if we cannot move into our truth, or if we do not agree, or do choose not to move in our into this place where we are congruent within, then collective entities will kind of drive us there. They will kind of force us there. Circumstances will conspire for us to actually look at certain things, no matter how uncomfortable they are, so that we can advance, so that we can begin to become more aware and to begin to manifest higher vibrational goals, intentions, and of course a practical life. Okay, higher vibrational relationships, higher vibrational jobs, ways to make money, to live, to grow, and to, of course, exist here as a sort of sustainable beings, and being part of this whole collective that needs to move into sustainability. For this week, I also predicted a little bit of issues with addictions, with addictive behaviors. And that's why I recommended for people to wait a little bit with if they want to quit smoking or quit drinking or any other things, only because I could foresee that this this karmic work here can drive us into our core fears, into our core wounds, and it's not a good timing to address addictive issues when we are caught in our core wounds, because everything that we perceive, the way we perceive the world, the way we perceive others, is very much then sort of dominated by our pain, by our fear, and our addictions or addictive behaviors, they are linked to our wounds and our pain, and so they, basically represent our coping mechanisms. And when things flare up like this, it's not a good time to start it. All right, so next week will be a better time for this, and really, I'm not trying to hold anyone from quitting anything. We're back in recovery. We have a huge recovery session coming up on tomorrow here, and this is a big part of our work, because we regard the ego as part of our addictive structure, and that's why you will often hear me say things, ego coping mechanisms, or I will use the word ego in conjunction with addiction, with some of the stuff that makes it so difficult for us to say, like, move on or to refrain from unhealthy choices. Okay, there's a very complex connection here. All right, and so part of that challenge that comes with the karmic family stuff, or inner child stuff, really, because many of us were caught in inner child wounds, which obviously lead back to some of the pain that we've experienced when we were younger, is actually not just linked to this lifetime or this particular life experience for many of us. And this was actually the kind of the cool part about having been faced with this, or almost like having been forced to face it this week, was to find out that, man, my mom or my dad, they did some terrible things, or maybe not even terrible things. They were just not really good parents or whatever. And I've taken away some of these wounds from that. But if I look back a few more generations, if I look past my pain, if I can feel into where my parents are at and accept what their limitations are, I can actually see how wounded they are, how much they have kind of inherited from their previous generations, from their parents and the parents before. And if you believe it or not, from an energy standpoint, there's a huge connection here. We see specific karmic conflicts or ties actually passed on from one generation to another, typically like all the way to like 7 generations back. All right, so if you look at yourself as a generation 0, then if you want to clear family karma, you need to go back 7 generations, and that's like 230, 250 years back. So, of course, you don't know these people in your lineage. You don't know your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. But if you follow my advice here that I did at the beginning of the session, where I explained how etheric reconciliation or energetic reconciliation can work, then you can still do this. So you can still reconcile with a person that has lived 200 years ago without ever having met them. But their energy and their traumas, sometimes also some of the lessons that they needed to learn and that were unfinished, they pass on. And this is not some kind of spiritual woo-woo, guys. This is actually already proven. So there's enough scientific evidence today that we know that things like trauma and learning experiences are inherited. They can be shown. All right. As of this moment, the focus is on our mitochondrial DNA. This is the whole field of epigenetics, and it can at least prove this for our female lineages. All right, there are things that can be proven to be inherited to the offspring through our DNA. Okay, so never forget this. We're not just talking some out there concepts. Okay, a lot of that stuff is actually very real. It's just sometimes not quite contextualized yet with some of the experiences that we have. Yes. Yeah, so there was a little bit of this emotional escalation last week, and some people experienced quite dramatic things, all right? But this doesn't have to be that way for everybody. The main chakras that were affected last week were primarily our second chakra, our sacral chakra, that's here below our belly, where our larger intestines are located. A lot of us may have had digestive issues. I've already announced this last week. And our sixth chakra, which is generally our third eye. So there was a lot of visions that people had in this week. And when I say visions, you know, you don't have to classify yourself as a visionary person. You can have visions in your dreams. You can have visions through things like deja vus or any other kind of subtle energetic sensation, as I call this. So there are things that can come to you, even if you maybe believe about yourself that you're not very visually inclined, or that your third eye is not really functioning that well. Most people underestimate their ability for their third eye to actually deliver information, to deliver guidance, although admittedly it has to be trained a little bit. So in order to be able to interpret or contextualize some of that information that is coming through, be in through lucid dreaming or meditation, or even deeper things like transpersonal meditation or vision quests and so forth. And this needs to be learned. Okay, this needs to be trained. This is what we do here at transCODES. But a lot of people have much more vision than they think they do. It's just that it doesn't always come visually. So even though I say things like you will see, or you can see, and I talk about visions, they do not always come in a visual way. So don't get too fixated on your visual perception. The third eye is linked to our pineal gland, and the pineal gland is linked to a bunch of neurotransmitters in our system. And yes, there can be limitations here. There can be things, at least those are current theories. There can be things like calcification and so forth through fluorides in our drinking water, or some nutritional contamination, environmental toxins and so forth. So we do know that our aptitude for to have visionary experiences is the highest at birth, really, and then it slowly degrades. But there are exercises, there are things that we can do to increase that ability, even through a simple sort of metabolic manipulation. It doesn't even have to be through hallucinogenics or entheogens, or there's many other ways to enhance your inner vision, and probably the single most not only important but efficient way to train your third eye, to train your inner vision, is practice. Okay, some of us are born with this. Some of us are born with an ability that they don't even know that this is it, and they still need to train how to harness that, how to contextualize it. But it isn't how you think, you guys. it isn't how you think it is. It isn't like you have this constant influx of sort of clairvoyant or clairsentient, or whatever you want to call this, precognitive influx. It's a choice that we make, all right? And energetically sensitive people are closer to that than people who have generally shut themselves down from their inner vision, which is more of the 85 percentile of people here. And so if you feel like you really want to do something there, know that you can, okay? Everybody can develop this. We have that ability. It's our seventh sense, okay? We all have it already, all right? So don't think it's anything special. That's why, sorry, but that's why I don't make it special, all right? Because everybody has that ability. Not everyone has the aptitude, but it can be learned, all right? So when it came to like sort of getting through the lessons or getting through those tasks in those last week, we were inevitably sort of confronted with some of our, let's put it this way, mental preoccupations, our rigid beliefs, our views, our well, how we want to see things. And when we get hooked to how we want to see things, and by the way here, talking about collective energies, most of these things, how you see the world, what you believe in, how you see, like say, politics, how you see what's going on in this world, is not even your own. That was implanted into you, that was conditioned into you all your life. All right. And so when we are confronted with those, and when we begin to realize that these are limitations, not only that we have limitations in, like, say, our ability to discern truth, which is what this mentioned article was about, but also in our ability to just feel who we are, what we want, where we want to be, what is good for us, what is not good for us. Why do you think so many people make so many unhealthy choices? It's not because they're stupid. It's not because they don't know deep down. It's because of those preoccupations that we have, those beliefs that we have to be in a certain way, that we have to act in a certain way, that we need to be somebody, all right? That we are not good enough as we are. And that is what creates this huge potential of inner conflict in us. And from an energetic standpoint, you know, an inner conflict is probably the single most dangerous thing, because your energetic immune system is extremely low when you are caught in an inner conflict. And what is usually in the way to resolve these conflicts? Well, one of them being our mental beliefs. That's the mental aspect of it. Some of it is our pain, our wounds. We talked about that. That would be the emotional aspect of it. Some of it is a physical restriction that we have. That we can't really move out of our situation, like, say, you know, when you're really young and you don't have the money yet to do certain things that you would like to manifest, that would be a physical restriction. But there's also a lot of spiritual restrictions sometimes, that people believe that you have to be in a certain way to be a good fill in the blank, you know, good something, and that this is the way it needs to be done in order to be accepted or receive that validation from whatever external power that we're handing our power to. But there's also an energetic standpoint to that, and that is if we are not really embodying our say our full field, if we are not fully aware of where you know, our energy goes and what it can do and what how it can limit us, well, then we are pretty much at a loss here. Okay, not only are we dealing with mental preoccupations and with pain and with physical restrictions, we're also dealing with some hands-on spiritual misbeliefs and misconceptions, and also, of course, the inability to quite determine truth from falsehood. So where all this is leading here is the ego talk, is the talk that, you know, or the part where our ego really comes in and takes over power and can rule us in ways of, as we all know, reactivity, really strong inertia sometimes, really strong fear, and so forth. And a lot of these inhibiting factors can be traced back to our ego, and our ego is really just a culmination of all the things that we've learned in our lifetime that help us to cope with all these challenges and these limitations. So if someone like yourselves, otherwise, I mean, you wouldn't be listening to me right now or watching this video, is interested in how to break through some of these limitations, all right, karma or not, then you've got to be willing to really look at how things are. You got to be willing to look at the honest truth with yourself, and this includes that you look into, like, okay, you know, you get stuck in things, or you feel like you're not progressing, or you feel like you can never get anything. You know, like, say you want to manifest something and you never get there, then you're going to ask yourself, well, what are you getting out of staying there? What are you getting out of staying in your pain, staying in your fear? You might, you know, this may rub you the wrong way right now, because of course, you know, who wants to be in pain? Who wants to be in fear? Who wants to be angry all the time? Who wants to be poor all the time? You know, who wants to have negative relationships or relationship experiences all the time? But guess what? If we can make out that there is a pattern there and that things are recurring in our life, then I can tell you right here, right now, there is a 99.9% chance that your ego is involved, and that your ego is getting something out of that, no matter how big our suffering is. And if you believe it or not, our suffering is linked to our ego as well. And since I mentioned the mental preoccupations here before, how many of you have heard or even said themselves, well, life is hard, get used to it, get tough, like you know, accept that life is a struggle, accept that life is not going to give you everything you want. We all have. That's a collective program. That's a conditioning. But here I am asking you, well, who says life has to be a struggle? It doesn't. The reason why most people perceive their life as struggle is because they have an attachment to pain. And a pain attachment is something that, as sort of fantastical this may sound, if you go really deep inside, you will find that there is a part of you that gets something out of that. And that's where you need to address your healing. You need to go into, what is it that after all this pain, after all this suffering, and folks, this can even be related to physical stuff. What am I getting out of this? Victimhood? Victimhood can feed our ego, because in victimhood we don't have to take responsibility. We can blame others or the system or the world. Are we getting vengeance out of it? Are we getting some kind of sort of justification for our own stuff out of our suffering? I don't want to really go too deep into this here, because we still got a few other things to cover. This article is talking about ego payoff. So it's what we call ego payoff, all right? We're going to have to be willing to look at our ego payoff, because that's the magnetism, that's the gravity that keeps us in our suffering, all right? Just to point this here out. And this was part of what we've went through last week, and the only way to really get out of this is to to put ourselves into that place where we claim our sovereignty, where we say, all right, be it as is. I am, you know, I'm willing to accept that I have a lot of stuff that is unresolved, that I have things that, you know, it would probably be good to work on. But I can't blame others anymore. I can't blame the system for this or that. Do these things all play into it? Yes, absolutely. And we are all connected here. And what I talked about earlier, the connection between the collective and the family karma and our personal karma, those things are all real. But guess what? It is you who has to change that. It is you who has the choice. And this is what the people that worked with me actively here last week were working on, decoupling from the collective, decoupling from some of these implants and these preoccupations through not just the collective, also family and so forth, our life's conditioning. All right, and this is each and every one's choice. You have the choice. So if you are willing to invite and to embrace and to live truth, then you actually have a choice. If you are not willing to do this, which is of course everybody's right, then it will be very difficult to free yourself, to liberate yourself from some of these limitations and these challenges, these struggles in your life.